Hello everyone, and welcome to my YNR Official 24 channel. Audra exposes Sienna'S secret about Noah's daughter. The tension in Genoa city reached unprecedented heights when Audra, long considered a quiet observer in the chaos surrounding the Newman and Abbott families, took center stage in a revelation that would shake everyone to their core. It all started when Audra, who had been suspicious of Sienna'S recent erratic behavior and secretive phone calls, began piecing together the puzzle of her motives. For weeks, she had noticed Sienna'S unusual interest in Noah's life, her sudden inquiries about his schedule, and her carefully calculated questions about his daughter, whose existence had been a source of tension for years due to past custody battles and complicated romantic entanglements. Audra had seen the way Sienna'S eyes darted nervously whenever Noah's name came up in conversation, and the way she would abruptly change topics when confronted about her whereabouts. At first, Audra tried to dismiss her instincts as paranoia. After all, Sienna had always been unpredictable, manipulative, and skilled at keeping secrets. But as the days progressed, Audra began connecting the dots, realizing that Sienna was hiding something monumental, something that could not only disrupt Noah's life but also threaten the delicate balance of relationships in Genoa city. Driven by a combination of concern for Noah and a need for justice, Audra began her investigation in earnest. She started by reviewing security footage from the Abbott mansion, noticing Sienna slipping out at odd hours and meeting with individuals whose presence in Genoa city had previously gone unnoticed. Audra meticulously cataloged every phone call, every suspicious meeting, and every lie Sienna had ever told about her involvement with Noah. She discovered that Sienna had been visiting a secluded part of town, meeting with a woman who claimed to be connected to Noah's past, someone who seemed to have information about a daughter Noah had barely acknowledged to himself, let alone to the world. Audra's heart raced as she realized the gravity of the situation. Sienna wasn't merely hiding a small secret. She was deliberately orchestrating a plan that could change the trajectory of Noah's life forever. The daughter in question, a sweet, intelligent, and loving child, had been kept in the shadows, shielded from the man who had a right and a duty to know her. Audra felt a mix of anger, fear, and determination. She knew that exposing Sienna's deception would not be easy. Sienna was cunning, persuasive, and had an uncanny ability to manipulate even the most perceptive individuals. Audra had to tread carefully, ensuring that her evidence was irrefutable. She began secretly recording conversations, gathering documents, and reaching out to contacts who could corroborate her findings. The tension escalated with every passing day, as Sienna's erratic behavior grew more pronounced. She started lashing out at those closest to her, throwing subtle threats and creating diversions to protect her secret. Audra, however, remained resolute, meticulously planning the moment when the truth would finally come to light. And then, the fateful day arrived. The perfect storm of confrontation, revelation, and emotional upheaval converged at a charity gala hosted by the Chancellor family, a setting ripe for dramatic exposure. Audra, dressed elegantly yet armed with an unyielding resolve, approached Sienna under the guise of a friendly conversation, carefully baiting her into revealing inconsistencies in her story. Sienna, unaware that every word was being documented, began to slip, her confidence faltering as Audra pressed gently but firmly. The tension in the room was palpable. Guests sensed that something monumental was unfolding, their attention caught by the subtle yet electric energy between the two women. Audra's heart pounded as she finally unveiled the evidence she had painstakingly collected: photographs, phone records, and first-hand accounts that incontrovertibly linked Sienna to a deliberate effort to keep Noah's daughter a secret. The room gasped collectively as the implications sank in. Sienna's eyes widened, a mixture of shock and fear crossing her face, while Noah, who had been standing nearby, felt a surge of emotions: confusion, betrayal, anger, and an overwhelming desire to protect the daughter he had been denied access to. Audra, with unwavering calm, narrated the timeline of Sienna's deception, exposing each calculated move she had made to manipulate situations in her favor. She revealed how Sienna had intercepted letters, redirected communication, and even influenced caretakers to maintain the illusion that Noah's daughter was out of reach, all while presenting herself as a supportive friend and ally. The crowd was riveted, each revelation more shocking than the last. Noah's daughter, who had been brought to the gala under the pretense of a family visit, looked on with wide eyes, sensing the storm that was about to engulf the adults around her. The emotional weight of the moment was immense. Noah, torn between anger at Sienna and a deep longing to connect with his child, struggled to process the betrayal. Audra, understanding the delicate balance required, gently reassured him, guiding him through the steps he could take to reclaim the relationship that had been unfairly withheld from him. Meanwhile, Sienna, cornered and exposed, attempted to justify her actions, claiming that she had acted out of concern for Noah's daughter, fearing that the truth would disrupt the fragile stability of her life. But Audra's meticulous presentation left no room for ambiguity. The manipulation and deceit were undeniable. The confrontation reached its climax when Noah, with tears in his eyes, took a tentative step toward his daughter, bridging the years of absence with a simple yet profound gesture of love. The room fell silent, the weight of the revelation settling over everyone present. Audra's role in the exposure was lauded by some, questioned by others, but ultimately recognized as pivotal in restoring truth and integrity to a situation fraught with deceit. Sienna, faced with the undeniable consequences of her actions, was left to grapple with the fallout, her reputation in Genoa city tarnished and her relationships strained beyond repair. Yet, in the midst of the chaos, a sense of justice prevailed. Noah finally had the opportunity to forge the bond he had been denied, guided by Audra's courage and tenacity. The ramifications of this revelation rippled across Genoa city, affecting not only the Newman and Abbott families but also friends, allies, and even casual acquaintances who had unknowingly been drawn into Sienna's web of secrecy. Conversations buzzed with speculation, alliances shifted, and the city itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see how the newly unveiled truths would reshape the social and emotional landscape. For Audra, the experience was both exhausting and empowering. She had faced a formidable adversary in Sienna, navigated the complexities of delicate human emotions, and emerged as a catalyst for truth and reconciliation. As the dust settled, Audra reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment, the careful observation, the sleepless nights, the ethical dilemmas, and the unwavering commitment to justice. She knew that Genoa city would never be the same, that the bonds between individuals had been tested, broken, and in some cases strengthened, and that the exposure of Sienna's secret had set in motion a series of events whose consequences would be felt for months, if not years, to come. And yet, amidst the turmoil, there was hope, a hope that honesty, courage, and integrity could triumph over deceit, that love could overcome betrayal, and that the future, though uncertain, held the promise of redemption and reconciliation. Noah, now able to embrace his daughter fully, felt a sense of relief and profound gratitude toward Audra, whose intervention had made the impossible possible. The two shared a quiet moment of understanding, a recognition that sometimes it takes the bravery of one person to illuminate the truth for many, to unearth secrets that threaten to fracture lives, and to restore a sense of balance in a world fraught with lies, manipulation, and hidden agendas. Sienna, meanwhile, retreated into the shadows, forced to confront the reality of her actions and the irrevocable damage they had caused. The scandal dominated conversations across Genoa city for weeks, with friends and foes alike debating the ethical implications, the emotional fallout, and the lessons to be learned from such a brazen act of deception. For Audra, the experience solidified her reputation as a woman of principle, capable of navigating the treacherous waters of Genoa city's social and familial entanglements with wisdom, courage, and unwavering moral clarity. In the aftermath, the relationships between key players shifted dramatically, alliances were reforged, old wounds reopened, and the fabric of the community itself was altered by the revelation of Sienna's secret. Yet, even amidst the upheaval, the central truth remained unassailable. Noah now had the opportunity to build a genuine, loving relationship with his daughter, free from the interference and manipulation that had defined the past. And as Genoa City adjusted to this new reality, the story of Audra's bravery, Sienna'S deception, and the eventual triumph of truth over secrecy became a defining chapter in the ongoing saga of one of television's most beloved and enduring dramas, a reminder that in a world where lies and manipulation can run rampant, courage, integrity, and the relentless pursuit of justice can prevail, restoring hope, healing, and the possibility of new beginnings for all involved. The aftermath of Audra's revelation left Genoa City in a state of shock, rippling through every social circle, office, and family gathering. News of Sienna'S deception spread like wildfire, sparking endless conversations, whispered theories, and heated debates among residents who had long relied on appearances and assumptions to navigate the city's complex web of relationships. At Crimson Lights, patrons murmured over coffee about how Sienna could have been so manipulative, while some sympathized with her motivations, claiming she had acted out of fear for Noah's daughter's safety. Meanwhile, Noah, still reeling from the emotional whirlwind, found himself navigating uncharted territory. Suddenly thrust into the role of an active parent after years of being denied the opportunity, he faced a storm of conflicting emotions: relief, anger, guilt, and a desperate desire to protect the daughter he had only recently discovered he had. The young girl, wide-eyed and overwhelmed by the sudden influx of attention, clung to her nanny and looked nervously at Noah, unsure of the intentions of the adults around her. Audra, ever vigilant, stayed close, offering support to Noah as he struggled to balance his instincts as a father with the delicate reality that his daughter had been kept away from him for years. She guided him in small, careful steps, encouraging gentle interactions and slowly building trust between father and daughter, understanding that the foundation of a lasting relationship had to be nurtured with patience, not rushed under the pressure of emotions running high. Across town, Sienna'S world was unraveling at an alarming pace. The exposure had not only tarnished her reputation but also disrupted the alliances she had carefully cultivated over months. Friends who had once seen her as charming and dependable now regarded her with suspicion, questioning every decision, every word, and every action she had taken. Even those who had remained neutral now found it difficult to trust her, as the depth of her deception revealed an unflinching willingness to manipulate others for personal gain. Sienna retreated to her apartment, alone and increasingly paranoid, replaying the confrontation with Audra over and over in her mind. Every decision she had made, every secret she had kept, now seemed like a miscalculation that had led her to a precipice from which there was no easy return. She tried reaching out to allies who might offer support or sympathy, but the calls went unanswered, the messages ignored. The city had shifted against her in a way that she had never anticipated, and the consequences of her actions were becoming painfully clear. Meanwhile, the Newman and Abbott families, along with the extended network of friends and associates in Genoa City, found themselves drawn into the fallout. Victor Newman, always a figure of influence and authority, had a complicated reaction to the news. On one hand, he respected Audra's courage and moral clarity, recognizing the importance of truth in a world where deceit often prevailed. On the other hand, he understood that Sienna'S actions, though morally questionable, had created a potential liability for the family, exposing vulnerabilities that competitors and rivals might exploit. He convened a series of meetings with his inner circle, including Nikki, Nick, and even Adam, to strategize about the potential repercussions. They debated the balance between protecting family interests and addressing the emotional fallout for Noah and his daughter, recognizing that the situation required both diplomacy and decisive action. Nick Newman, particularly affected by the revelations, struggled with his own sense of justice and familial loyalty. He empathized with Noah, recalling the pain and frustration that came from being kept away from loved ones, and felt a deep sense of anger towards Sienna for orchestrating such a deceit. At the same time, he recognized that Sienna's motivations were complex, rooted in fear and insecurity, and that simplistic condemnation would not address the layers of emotional turmoil now at play. Nick took it upon himself to mediate, attempting to navigate conversations between the affected parties, while also shielding Noah's daughter from excessive scrutiny and public attention. He coordinated discreet meetings, private discussions, and careful disclosures to ensure that Noah could begin building a bond with his daughter in a safe, nurturing environment. As the days passed, the situation grew even more tense when Sienna, desperate to regain control, attempted to manipulate the narrative. She sought the counsel of a few remaining allies, crafting a story that painted her actions as protective, asserting that she had acted in the child's best interest to prevent potential harm. Yet, Audra's meticulous documentation and the undeniable evidence presented at the gala rendered Sienna'S attempts largely ineffective. The public perception had already shifted, and the narrative of deceit and manipulation dominated conversations throughout Genoa City. Friends, coworkers, and even casual acquaintances discussed the scandal openly, analyzing motives, predicting future moves, and weighing potential outcomes. Gossip columns, social media chatter, and news outlets seized upon the story, turning it into a citywide talking point. The drama became a cultural event within Genoa City, illustrating the high stakes of hidden secrets and the consequences of betrayal. Noah, meanwhile, focused on the practical and emotional realities of reconnecting with his daughter. He struggled with questions of discipline, affection, and communication, wanting to establish authority as a father while also respecting the child's experiences and feelings. Audra remained a critical presence during this period, offering guidance on how to navigate emotional challenges and providing a stabilizing influence amid the chaos. The young girl, initially wary and uncertain, gradually began responding to Noah's patience and kindness, demonstrating an innate desire to connect despite the years of absence. The evolution of their relationship was not linear. Moments of tension, frustration, and confusion emerged, each requiring careful handling to prevent setbacks. Noah learned to celebrate small victories, a shared smile, a tentative hug, a mutual laugh, recognizing that trust was a delicate process that could not be rushed, and that patience was his greatest ally. Meanwhile, Sienna'S attempts to regain influence intensified in unpredictable ways. She began reaching out to other residents of Genoa City, attempting to sow discord among Noah's allies and subtly undermining Audra's credibility by questioning her motives. However, each attempt was met with increasing resistance. People who had once been neutral or supportive of Sienna were now cautious, aware of the consequences of alignment with someone so thoroughly exposed. The city itself seemed to reflect the shift, as business dealings, social events, and casual interactions all bore the shadow of the scandal. Audra, vigilant and composed, countered each maneuver with strategic calm, ensuring that the narrative remained focused on truth, responsibility, and the well-being of Noah's daughter. The emotional tension reached a peak when the child, sensing the conflict between adults, asked difficult questions about Sienna and her father. Noah, guided by Audra, navigated these conversations with honesty and care, explaining the complexity of adult decisions while affirming his unwavering love and commitment to her. Audra encouraged him to maintain consistency, empathy, and patience, knowing that a child's perception of trust and safety is shaped by repeated actions rather than words alone. The bond between father and daughter began to strengthen as shared experiences, small adventures, and quiet moments of connection fostered trust, affection, and mutual understanding. As the weeks unfolded, Genoa City continued to react to the revelation. Public opinion, gossip, and even business implications created a dynamic environment in which alliances shifted, reputations were tested, and new opportunities for reconciliation and betrayal emerged. Audra's role remained pivotal. Her courage in exposing the truth had not only protected Noah's rights as a father but had also reinforced a broader moral lesson for the city. Secrets and deceit, no matter how well hidden, inevitably surface, and the consequences are far-reaching. Sienna, increasingly isolated and desperate, faced the reality that her actions had irreversibly altered her relationships. Attempts at reconciliation were complicated by the enduring impact of betrayal and mistrust, and she began to confront the emotional and psychological consequences of her manipulation. Meanwhile, Noah and his daughter, guided by Audra's wisdom and support, began forging a genuine relationship rooted in honesty, affection, and the shared understanding of a painful past now being transformed into a hopeful future. The city itself became a living participant in the saga, as friends, colleagues, and casual acquaintances navigated the